Welcome to the Private Equity Show with Ace Chapman. With 20 years experience, Ace discusses own firms, recent activities, target industries, desired acquisition profiles, closing pitches, and more. Learn from other successful industry leaders and get the behind-the-scenes candid details about private equity funds, how they work, how they thrive, and how you can run one too. And now your host, Ace Chapman.
Hey, what's up? So this is a much different video than I usually do, but I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and it ended up relating to private equity. So this is a buddy of mine. I love him. He's one of those really out-of-the-box thinkers and creative, and it's important to have those folks in your life. But I agree with a lot of the things. I haven't done ayahuasca or anything like that. It's something that's definitely on my list. But he's the guy that just keeps me in tune with those kinds of things. I can get on board with a lot of the stuff he talks about. One thing I can't get on board with is the whole flat earth thing. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And so what I've done is just never talked about it. I'm just like, even if he brings it up, it's like, dude, I'm just not even going to have that discussion with you. So we got a lot of time. It's quarantine. We're chatting about actually some business stuff I'm helping him on. And the whole flat earth thing came up. I'm like, why not? Let's have this conversation. So we're chatting through it, and the thing that was interesting to me was the philosophy on how to think rather than any specific thing actually having to do with flat earth at all. So he was talking about a couple of things, and one of the examples that we discussed was the idea of you could have somebody who it has a ton of proof that the earth doesn't move at all, and it's a lot of real proof. And for those scientists that were saying like, hey, the earth is moving, everybody around was like, dude, like, no, it's not. Like, when I'm in a carriage, I know it's moving. If the earth were moving around, like, we would know it. Like the evidence, like you can't prove that to me, and especially obviously at that time you couldn't go into space and really prove it and any of that. But the scientist of the day, and this is one of those interesting things, is that in each one of the cases, the scientists of the day literally could be killed for coming up with these ideas. And so it wasn't just like, oh, let's have a debate. You had to really, really believe it, because you were going to be killed for coming up with these ideas. Now, another example, and you would say like, okay, what if somebody didn't believe that there was a moon? And you could obviously just point and say, hey, like, there's the moon. But what if that person refused to even look up? And stick with me, because this is going somewhere. But if that person just refused to look up and was like, no, there's not a moon, like the moon does not exist, then you're telling them like, no, just look right there. Like, I'm telling you that there is a moon. And all you gotta do is look up. And they're just like, no, if there were a moon, I'd know there were a moon. I was never taught there was a moon. There's no reason for me to look up, because I know that there's not a moon. And that example is interesting because Galileo like literally had that, where the other scientists were saying that these other planets didn't have moons. And he's like, well, like, no, I'm looking through a telescope, and here you can see like Jupiter, like not just one moon, it actually has 13 moons. And they're like, no, that's not gonna look, because that's not real. And these are scientists that are just saying, nope, not gonna look at that. Gonna refuse that. That's ridiculous. This is heresy. You're crazy. And I'm literally just not. I mean, it's literally the guy pointed and said, hey, there's the moon. And just like, no, not gonna. And so the examples of this that I thought were interesting, and that is just a great lesson, is the idea of open-mindedness and the power of open-mindedness. And for me, it's something that it's funny because I believed this for a long time, but I challenge clients on this, but it's the idea that open-mindedness and being wrong is actually better than closed-mindedness and being right. And here's the reasoning behind this, and then I'll talk about one of the conversations that we had in the private equity fund incubator before even having this conversation that led to these thoughts with my buddy. But the idea that if you're closed-minded and you do become right every once in a while. So let's say you're the closed-minded person and you're like, yes, I do believe the earth is round, whatever. And, or you say, yes, there are 13 moons on Jupiter, there's 2 moons on Saturn, Saturn has a ring around it, and there's, 50 moons on Pluto. And somebody's like, you're like, I believe that, I know that for a fact, I understand. And somebody's like, yes, you're right, like Jupiter does have 13 moons. And you're like, yeah, I know. And you're like, yeah, you're right about Saturn. And they're like, actually, you're wrong about Pluto. You're like, no, like I know what is right. And so even if you're right and you're closed-minded, you're gonna be right sometimes, but you're gonna miss out on everything else because when you look at all of the possibilities, there are very few things that you're going to be able just conceptually to even hold in your head. And so to be able to be right and closed-minded is it's going to happen. You're going to have that happen, but there's going to be a lot more things that you're going to be wrong about if you're closed-minded than there are that you'll be right about. And you look at this when it comes to religion and a lot of things. I mean, there are a lot of people. It's like, okay, if everybody has these different beliefs all over the world, and everybody's closed-minded, and one of the rules, one of the greatest rules of that you can give in a religion is like you can't question this religion. So it's like you can't be open-minded about this. Then nobody gets to debate and find the truth because nobody is open-minded enough in those hardcore religious sects to say that okay, let's kind of figure out, like, let's be open-minded and really open-minded, not just open-minded as I try to convince you of what I think. Open-mindedness is like coming into things and like being outrageously open-minded. It's funny even when I talk about some of the real history of America. And it's like, hey, America's been the bad guy, and it's just facts. And like there's been a lot of things like there are a lot of countries and they're like, oh, these people, they hate us because they hate freedom. It's like, no, they hate us because we snuck into their country and killed a president because we didn't like what the freedom president was doing and replaced it with a dictator who's killed people. And like there are real facts that we're just not taught. And it's one of those cases where I see it whenever I make some videos that references some of these things and investing internationally and being open-minded about certain things. You get this kind of gut reaction and closed-mindedness of like, no, that's not possibility. But I think on the open-minded side, when you really have an open mind, it's just everything. Like, when has my country been the bad guy? When have I been the bad guy? What do I hold very dearly as a belief that I can just be open-minded about? And so when you compare that to the closed-minded, that person that, they're going to be right. It's like, hey, gravity exists. I wake up. Yes, you're right. But there's going to be a lot of other things that you are going to be wrong on. On the open-minded side, why it's better is that you're going to be wrong a lot as well, but you're always going to be discovering more and more truths. And when you're like really open-minded, it's not even about discovering the truth and then being closed-minded. It's about making discoveries and just being in a state of open-mindedness. So what in the world does all this have to do with private equity? So it's funny. I'm talking to Steve, my buddy, and I'm like, man, this is like a conversation that we had a few weeks back. And I have one of the guys who's in the private equity fund incubator, and I was going through some examples of deals and different ways to structure deals, and very innocently he said, "Okay, like man, this is amazing. I can't wait to see it." And see us do, like when we do this, like that's when it's gonna click and it's gonna be real to me when I see it. And I think it's in like the whole thing of having the power to be open minded to the point of not really looking for a specific answer, but searching through all of the answers. So. And this is a tough thing to really break down, but when it comes to a lot of the private equity deals that we do, what you want to bring to the table is creativity. And as soon as you're focused on, okay, here are the strategies, here are the ways to do this, all of a sudden the creativity is kind of out the window. And so while the whole point, and this is why I say it was very innocent, because the whole point of the what we do in the incubator is to show you um, how it works and walk through, and we're actually doing deals together, and it's really exciting. We're putting together a contract on what's going to be the first deal in the fund that we're building in the incubator, and so all of that is really exciting. So yes, we're going to do it. You're going to see it, but the mentality of I'm focused on what happens in front of me gets rid of the power of creativity, of all of the possibilities. And so you have all these possibilities that could happen. I've done a ton of deals. I've got ideas, but that's not all the ideas. I have to stay open-minded to learning new ways of doing things. One of the things that I wanted to do in a fund, and one of the things we're setting up this fund to be able to do is, we'll be using some equity when we're buying other deals. And it's a kind of complicated, but essentially it was a concept that several attorneys told me, several experts in the industry, like, hey, you can't do that. Nobody's ever done that. It just doesn't work. Da da da. And instead of me taking that, these are guys that have way more experience, way more money, have done well, or they get the law and all that. And so I could have taken that and just said, okay, that can't be done. And that been the end. But I kept searching. I did some research, bringing back other ways to get the same thing done. And from their perspective, it was, hey, I haven't seen that be done before. I don't know how that would be done. And so the thinking stops right there. And so what I'm always trying to encourage is don't stop your thinking, or don't even base your thinking just around what you see. It's great to get that experience, but the only goal of the experience isn't to see something be done, but it's to be able to use that experience to trigger more ideas. And that even when you see the example, is okay, what else could be done? What are the ways that I could get this deal done? And it's a paradigm shift in not only how you see deals or how you see private equity, it's how you see the world, of just, even if it's you've got goals in your lifestyle and how you want to live. I think right now we're in a place where a lot of people base their dreams on celebrities and Instagram. And so you see the videos, the photos, and you're like, hey, I like the idea of that kind of life. And that's great. It's great to see that example. But the better thing is like, okay, let me take a little bit of these different things, but what are the other ideas that are just genuine to me that hasn't been plugged in to my head that, oh, living on the beaches would be cool, or oh, having a Porsche would be cool. It's what's not just coming from the outside, or what's not based on what I've seen, but based on just my genuine desire. So I think this can be applied to everything. I know this is a little bit different idea, and I haven't really even, this is my first time talking out loud about this concept. So let me know if it makes sense. Shout out to the folks that are kind of following along in the incubator. Shout out to the guys. They're doing an amazing job. Man, just it's work. This isn't. I didn't call this a program or training or any of that stuff. It is an incubator, and so we are literally every day, every week, getting work done, and so that's super exciting to see. And so I'd love in the comments if you have things that you feel like are places that you want to be more open-minded, and maybe that will be some things that challenge me. But that conversation is so funny. I didn't walk away believing in flat earth, but I did walk away saying, hey, why haven't I had this conversation? And that was the trigger for me that even connected me to our conversation in the incubator of, when my man Laurent, when he was saying, hey, like, I can't wait to see this, in real life or whatever. It was like, okay, like, it's the same as me saying, okay, I've never seen this, like, I've seen the earth, like, I don't need to have this conversation. I'm done being open-minded about having a conversation about the earth being flat. But there's a power that can be learned just in going that next step. So it's more about not being closed-minded around just, okay, like, I'm looking for evidence or I haven't seen evidence. It's doing the work, and which can be a pain, but doing the work to just have conversations and not knowing what you're going to learn. So I didn't go into that conversation necessarily thinking I'm going to walk away from this a flat earther. But hey, why not be open to that? Show me the evidence. Why not be open to that? And so, stopping that conversation before it moved forward allowed me to kind of miss out on some lessons that can be applied to other areas in my life. Where it's like, okay, where else am I actually being closed-minded to a conversation, or closed-minded to an idea, or just stopping my thinking, because especially when it comes to private equity, when we're doing these deal structures, the deal that we're closing right now, it's no telling on that chart. There are probably 15 or something different things happening in a single transaction. So it's a lot of mental work. And, and even within that transaction, we went through, between everybody, 12, 13 different concepts of how to have those different moving parts work together. So it's an endless thing, and you've got to come up with the best one. And so you're never going to see in real life the exact transaction that you're going to do. So when I go back beyond to my past 200 transactions or deals that I've done in the most recent fund, like, no two deals are going to be alike. And so as soon as you're basing what you're going to do based on the past deals or the reality of a deal or whatever, then you're missing out on all of the other things, because, like I said before, I don't have all of the ideas. I certainly haven't done transactions that have been all of the scenarios. So I want to hopefully encourage you guys to, when it comes to your deals, being very, very open-minded, considering the ridiculous, and trying to see if you can close those kinds of deals. But I think, again, in your personal life as well, being as open-minded as possible is kind of a superpower, and that's what I'm always looking for. It's like, what's the thing that nobody's doing? So if everybody else is closed-minded, how can I be outrageously open-minded. And I think that that can help you make money, be a happier person, enjoy life, be healthier, all that. All right, thanks for checking out the video. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're interested in following along in the private equity fund incubator, I'll put May's email again below, and look forward to connecting with you guys. Did not think that when I started this week, I'd do a video about flat earthing. Shout out to all the flat earthers though, man. I respect the open-mindedness. As long as, and this is the last point, but as long as you don't become closed-minded, that maybe the earth is round. Hey there, thank you so much for checking out the episode. If you're somebody who's interested in learning more about private equity or even buying your first business, be sure to subscribe and don't be afraid to send us any questions or put those in the comments. If you're somebody that wants to take action now, feel free to visit acechapman.com. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter. Because there we'll update you on news that's happening in the micro private equity space, opportunities that we see in the market, as well as events that are coming up, like our live training events. If you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to hit me on Instagram. It's at ace.chapman, or shoot us an email, ace@acechapman.com. Thank you again for checking out the episode. And like I said, be sure to subscribe.